Coming to you live from Anderson, South Carolina. This is the Jaren Sustar Show, where we teach you how to manage your money and build financial freedom through investing in real estate, all while continuing to work your job, raise your family, and while living your busy life. I'm your host, Jaren Sustar, and I personally want to thank you guys for tuning in today. It's going to be an absolute great show. I'm excited to talk. There's a lot going on in the world, guys. The stock market down, I think at the time of this recording, it's down by about 8%. The U.S. is over here fighting terrorists. We don't know if Ukraine and Russia are going to cause World War III. Is Canada going to become the 51st state? Who owns Greenland? Will Doge actually balance the budget? Was your favorite celebrity at Diddy's parties? March Madness is upon us. There's so many stories that are hitting our phones and our computers every day. It really can be overwhelming. We get littered with all these breaking news stories that really can overwhelm us and put us in a bad headspace if we're not careful. It sounds as though the world is ending. It sounds as though the market's going to be crashing, that everything you have is going to be lost. That's what they make you think. Do you know why that's the narrative the majority of the time? You ever watch the news, whether it's the big news channels or the local news channels? It's always bad news. Why? Well, I think bad news must sell pretty good. The news channel's jobs is to get clicks. And so they're going to say whatever they have to say. They're going to put whatever headline they have to put to get more people to click on that article to join that particular show. And you guys have to understand that. And so while we should be prudent and we should be looking for things that could cause us harm, whether it be in the market or life or whatever, we also have to go through and take a lot of things with a grain of salt and understand that not everything is as big of a deal as it seems at the time, as it seems that the news is making it. And just relax, take a deep breath, and put a game plan together to get through times if they were to be tumultuous. That way you can be better off down the road. So from a financial perspective, let's talk about what's going on right now. Okay. Is the market crashing? There's a big pullback in the stock market. Real estate has had the lowest number of transactions in 2024 that it has had since 1995. So that's 3 decades. There were less real estate transactions in 2024 than there were during the recession in 08 and 09. So we got a lot of these things going on. Okay. So should we be scared? Do we just freeze? What do we do? Okay. Well, I can tell you what we don't do is we don't freeze. I think when we look at these times, we're not going into, let me just make this clear. We're not going into, the market's not crashing. It just isn't. The market is not anywhere close to being where it's going to crash. There's a little bit of a pullback right now. If you look at what's going on in politics, there's tariffs. People are concerned about tariffs. There's going to be bumpy rides at the beginning to get the economy where it needs to go. And then hopefully, if all this works out, then the economy is going to boom on the backside of it, especially if we can get the budget balanced. The budget has not been balanced in the United States in, I think, 3 decades. And so the value of our dollar is worthless. We actually may make the value of the dollar worth more if we can get out of all the debt. Time will tell if we can actually do that. But we're not headed for a market crash. There's some tumult, whatever the word is, turmoil, thank you, that is going on in the market right now. But it's not crashing, but there's a pullback. So how do we capitalize when things are a little bit slower, when the stock market's down, when real estate's not moving as quick? Well, Warren Buffett says it perfectly. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. So right now, everybody's really, really scared. Well, when others are fearful, what do? I don't like the word greed because I think that's sinful. But the point that Warren Buffett was trying to make is we need to be aggressive with our finances during times of uncertainty, because that's when the best deals are had. That's what he's saying in a nutshell. Is good investors, people who build wealth, are they make calculated decisions in times of uncertainty when everybody else is sitting on the sideline, because there's lots of deals. So first off, I want you guys to just relax. Okay, stop letting the headlines get to you. Just understand that everything is going to be okay. Okay, take a deep breath. Everything is going to be okay. But here's exactly what you do financially in times of turmoil, when things are up and down, and then also in good times. Things don't change. The game plan does not change. Here's what you got to do. Number one is you look at your budget and you get rid of the fluff. Okay, so we need to take a peek at what are we spending every month, and then what are the things that you can cut that aren't a necessity, things that you do not have to have. Go and trim that down. I do this usually 4 times a year. Once a quarter, I'll sit down, I'll look at the budget, and I'll see what we've added that's a little bit of a fluff, or maybe we don't even use the service anymore, and we go and we get rid of it. Number two is we're going to save an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. Okay. You don't need to go saving any more money because you're scared because the stock market's down 8%. You need 3 to 6 months of security of an emergency fund. If you're somebody who's more conservative, save 6 months of cash, put it in a savings account, or take the cash out and put it in a safe in your house, whatever the case may be. But you don't need any more than that. Sit on 6 months. And then what you're going to do after that is you're going to pay off consumer debt. If you got any bad debt, let's get rid of it. The student loans, the high interest cards, get rid of that debt. And then we're going to invest into assets. So whether that be things like index funds in the stock market, or my preferred asset class to invest in, which is real estate, which I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. And that's the game plan, guys. That's the game plan, whether we're going through a recession or whether things are going good, or whether the news is just blowing up different topics to scare everybody like they're doing right now. Create that budget, cut the fluff, get an emergency fund of 6 months. Once you have that emergency fund of 6 months, work on paying off that bad debt. Okay. You don't need bad debt looming over you. Now, there's conversations to be had if you have a little bit of what would be considered bad debt. Everybody considers bad debt different stuff. When I say bad debt, I'm thinking student loans, I'm thinking credit cards, I'm thinking store cards, and some would argue that even vehicles are bad debt. Now, there's an argument for not having to pay off a vehicle loan, especially if you got a low interest rate. But the key is we don't want to owe people money. If the only time you want to owe people money is when somebody else is paying that money back for you. So, for example, I own a bunch of rental properties and I have debt on those rental properties. Why? Well, there's two reasons. Number one is it goes up in value over time, and then number two, tenants rent the house from me and they pay off the debt for me. And so I go and I get debt, but then somebody else pays it. It's the biggest cheat code to life. Y'all have heard me talk about this. If you haven't, then go back and listen to every other episode. It's the greatest financial concoction on demand when you can do this. But if you have things like student loans or credit card debt that nobody else is paying off for you, you need to get rid of that because it's consumer debt. So you have debt on something that isn't an asset. So if you have debt on something that isn't going up in value and that isn't paying you, that's a scary place to be. That puts you in what is called a financial liable position. You're now liable financially. You have what's the word I'm thinking of? Anyways, you have kinks in the armor. That's the kind of stuff that can take you out financially. People worry about investing in the stock market and buying real estate. Those types of things help you in the long run, as long as you have that strong foundation built to where we're not drowning in debt. Where people get in trouble is they're drowning in debt, kind of living paycheck to paycheck, but then they go and they try to invest, or they'll try to day trade, or they'll try to do Airbnb arbitrage, or they'll try to get into stuff that they don't deserve to be. And listen, if you can't manage your own money, I always say this, if you're drowning in your own money, if you can't manage it, what makes you think that you have the right to go invest and control an asset like real estate or own stocks? You haven't even got your own house in order. That's number one. Prove to yourself. Building wealth is a gradual process. You know why? Because you learn how to handle and steward what you're given along the way. If you look at the statistics of people who win the lottery, they get big lump sums of money, they lose it all very quickly. And a lot of them actually end up committing suicide. Why? Because money is this tool that has to be respected. Wealth is this tool that has to be respected. And if you don't go in the process of learning how to steward it over time, then it will overtake you. And that's not a good place to be. The love of money, number one, is the root of all evil. And number two, will actually destroy you. It's like a supplement that is good in moderation, but if it hits you all at once, it can hurt you. I don't know what a good example of that would be, but I think you guys are getting what I'm putting down here. And so don't get yourself in trouble by trying to do something you're not ready for. It's okay if you're at a different point in the journey where you're not ready to invest right now. That's okay. Learn how to budget, learn how to take care of your money, learn how to get your debt paid off, learn how to bless other people. And the time will come for you to be able to invest. I've been on this journey myself. I lived the journey of paying off debt. It's no fun for 5 years. It's 5 years of my life. That's what I did. And it's part of what you have to do to get to where you want to be. But once we're at that point, once we're at the point of we don't have the bad debt, we've got good income coming in, we've got an emergency fund in place, Guys, there is nothing else. Listen to me. There's nothing else that you should focus on more with your money at that time than these two things: blessing others and investing into cash flowing, appreciating assets. Those are the only two things you should do with your money immediately after getting rid of this bad debt, after getting out of the bad decisions that you've made. Maybe not even bad decisions. Maybe like a doctor or a lawyer and you had to take out student loans to get this good career. Fine. Get that debt taken care of. Now we got to focus on two things: blessing others and creating generational wealth for ourselves. If you go down any other path, you're going to get yourself back into a financial hole that you don't want to do. And so that's what we have to focus on here in 2025 for those of you who are ready to rock and roll. You don't have that bad debt, you have good capital coming in. When I look at the middle class, I had a situation happen in my life for the last couple weeks with someone I know who they make a lot of money, love this person to death, and there's a lot to this story, so it's not just one-sided at all. There's other things that I will talk about in later episodes that I could have done right, but I was working on a business deal with somebody that I know, and they backed out essentially a couple reasons, but one of them was fear. And I thought about it for a while, just from a broad perspective. They were going to do this deal, they're going to lend money, they're going to make really good money, own the money statistically. And then the day we were supposed to do the transaction, they backed out because they were scared. And I started thinking, just from a broad perspective and things that I had to fight personally, I think most people stay middle class. It's not an educational thing. It's not a I'm not smart thing. It's there is this fear of parting with your hard-earned money. And I think it's a good thing in a sense if you are protecting yourself from bad decisions. Okay, so if you're scared to part with your money because you don't want to lose it, that can be good because hopefully that'll keep you from getting into some wonky stuff. But on the flip side, if you go to the extreme to where you run into scenarios that have proven themselves over and over again, such as investing in real estate, it's proven since the beginning of time it makes people wealthy, but you are fearful of it just because you haven't done it and you don't allow yourself to learn and take that jump simply because of fear, that is going to hold you back tremendously. And when I think of the middle class or even the upper middle class and how they could be even wealthier, should they want to be, it's because they make money, they worked hard for it. All of us have a past. Everybody has some type of trauma that life is hard for you. And so now you're making good money. You got to come in. You don't want to lose that. And so to actually take the capital that you work for and then go and do something with it is a very, 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 very hard thing to do. And I understand that. It's something that I dealt with early on in my investing career. But I'll tell you, friends, it's something that you have to work through and get over if you are going to build wealth. You've heard me say it time and again, you cannot save your way to wealth. You cannot save your way to wealth. It's just not going to happen. You can't put money in a savings account. You can't, take out cash and put it in a lockbox and think that you're going to be better off in the future. You're actually robbing from your future self when you do that. You have to understand that. You got to put yourself 10 years down the road and understand that you are taking money away from future Jaren or future X because of the lack of decisions that you're making today. And so I want to encourage you guys, yes, have some wits to you and don't make dumb decisions with your money. But when you get opportunities to deploy capital into assets that have proven themselves over time, you need to do it. And this is where I think wisdom comes in. In Proverbs, if you read Proverbs in the Bible, it essentially it talks about a number of things, but it's talking about finding wisdom. And I think wisdom comes through prayer, talking with God. I think wisdom comes from learning from other people's stories, listening to podcasts or reading books or reading stories in the Bible. And then I also know that it comes from counsel, right? And so I think if we incorporate prayer, study by learning from other people, and then actual counsel from not just any old Joe Blow, not financial advice from your dad who's broke, but talking to people who are where you want to be. They've already been there and maybe not to the level you want to get, but they're successful. They've done well with their capital. Asking them, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is the opportunity I have. What do you think? What have you done? And you'll be surprised, man. You have two of those conversations with some older folks. They don't even have to be older, just people who've already done what you're wanting to do. It will give you a new perspective. But what happens is people will sit down and they'll go to lunch or they'll have breakfast with somebody who isn't doing what they were wanting to do. And then that person's skeptical because the middle class person who's usually somewhat broke is skeptical because they haven't done the thing. So they can't give you wisdom because they haven't gone and done it. And so I encourage you guys to pursue investments like real estate and don't allow the fear of losing your capital hold you back. And when I say losing your capital, taking it out of your bank account and deployment, because that's going to be the only way that you're going to build wealth. And I'll tell you, this year, I was on with my team this morning and we had a team meeting at 9 a.m. And, we were talking about the business and the things we were doing just, on social media and how we are going to help our students that we coach to invest in real estate. And then I just got to start talking about real estate with them and all the deals that my team is buying right now. And guys, we are buying so many deals because there's so much opportunity. The market's been so slow that the prices are softening. Okay. And so I want to tell you exactly what I'm doing to get deals. All right. This is exactly what I'm doing to get deals. Go and deploy it. And there's a good chance you may get deals yourself. So one of the easiest things that I do to get deals is I drive around. All right. That's the funnest for me. And it costs the least amount of money. As I literally hop in my car, I'll drive around my town. All you guys can do this, even those of you who live in expensive neighborhoods, you can go and do this because there's probably opportunity for you to flip homes. And I want you to drive around what I call B class neighborhoods. So it's not the nicest part of town, but a step down, kind of the working class neighborhoods. We don't want to go to the rough parts of town where there's a bunch of crime. Stay away from those. So somewhere in the middle of the nice one and the really not nice parts of town. Drive around and look for vacant homes. So look for homes that are with overgrown yards and nobody's there. Or if you go in the evening time, no lights are on, and look up who the owner is and call the owner. If the owner's dead, look up who his sister is, who his cousin is, who his brother is, who his business was, and get a hold of the person who's in control of that property now. And then you're going to call them and say, hey, I live in the area. I was driving around. I saw that this property looked vacant. I'd be interested in buying it if you guys would sell it. And then have that conversation, get a meeting set up. Okay. Very easy to do. All you should be doing that every week. I usually take 1 to 1.5 hours every week to just drive around and see with my own eyes what's available. Now, the second thing that I'm doing that kind of adds fuel to that fire is I use an app called Deal Machine. Right. I love it. It works good for me. And so when I drive by a house like that that's vacant, I will call them and text them. And then if I don't hear back immediately, I will start sending mailers to them. Okay. And I usually send them every 30 to 45 days. And all I have to do on that app that I use is literally press the start mail button and it starts sending them mailers. And I can set how many days in it, like how often do I want them to get them? Every 30 days, every 45 days. And I usually do it for, depending on the property, usually around 45 days. And I'll hit send, boom, and now they're getting mail from me too. So then I'll call them every week, put it in my calendar. If they didn't answer, I'll put another reminder, call the person the following week, call them, and they're getting mailers from me. Okay. So that's the first thing I do. Very, very simple. You all can do that. The second thing I do, which costs a little bit more money, but we've got pretty good ROI, is I will send out targeted mailers. So one of the mailers that has worked fantastic for me, I just closed on a duplex last week using this mailer, and then I just been negotiating on a quadplex that I'm going to look at either after this show or tomorrow. And both of it came from what I'm about to tell you. So in the Deal Machine app, and if you use another app, I don't care. This isn't sponsored by Deal Machine. I'm just telling you guys exactly what I do. I will go and I will make a list of certain property owners. So one of the ones that has worked well for me and that I think is a great contact point, especially for anybody new in real estate, because it's an easy conversation to have, is I will type into the software, I'll say, pull me the list of all the owners in this particular area who are corporate owners, which just means they're LLC owners, which just means there's a very strong chance they're investors. And the house is vacant. Okay. So corporate owners with a vacant home. Now, if you want to tighten that up even more to people who I think are even more willing to sell, is corporate vacant owners who live out of state. So the owners actually live out of state. That dials it in even more. But I think you can probably pull the out of state back and just hit LLC owners who have vacant homes. Okay. These are going to be landlords who they're in the middle of tenant turnover for whatever reason, or they bought a property and they haven't got to fixing it up. This is a fantastic time for one investor to buy a property for another investor from another investor. Why? Because when tenants leave, investors do not really, I don't say they don't want to. Let me take that. Let me word this correctly. When tenants leave, money has to be put into a property. Okay. That's just all there is to it, because they're going to have messed up the property. Where you got to put new carpet in, you got to fix drywall. I mean, it could be simple fixes or it could be a little bit more. And so this is a great opportunity for, hey, this investor's had this property for 5 years. He's had two different tenants. Tenant just left this time, and he doesn't really feel like putting money in it to get a new tenant in there. What does that open up the opportunity for you? Opens you up the opportunity to come in, get a property that needs a little bit of love. So you're going to be able to get it at a discount from an investor who doesn't necessarily want to have to go through this whole process of fixing it up again. And I have bought a number of properties throughout the years through this. And I've actually sold properties myself to other investors, because from an investor standpoint, it is so much easier to offload a property to another investor than it is to sell to the open market. So if he wanted to sell that property, he's going to have to fix it up. Then he's going to have to get an inspection report, probably on his end, to go underneath the house and fix up all the things that need to be fixed underneath the house, and any roofing issues and all the buttoned up things that you have to do to be able to sell a property on the open market. That investor is going to have to go and do it. Okay. And it's a pain in the butt. So a lot of times people be like, well, why would investors sell a property as is, not fix up to you, where they could go sell it for $100,000 more fixed up? Well, to get that $100,000 more fixed up, they got to put $60K in it. So by the time they take another 3 months to fix up a property and $60K and sell it, and they pay realtor fees, everything else, they can sell to me as is without doing that, and the profit's about the same. And so I love transacting with other investors. And especially if you're a new person, it's, I believe personally that it's an easier transaction than buying from somebody who owns their own home. Because with another investor, you can literally show them the numbers, and you can put your deal into a rental property calculator and can say, hey, this is where I have to buy it. Here's why. And you can send it in an email. Can we get this deal done? And they get it. And you're not going to offend them for making an offer. It's just a very easy transaction. You can usually close very quickly, and it's great. And so I would encourage you guys, as you go through, this second quarter of this year, deploy those two tactics. Go and drive around, look for vacant homes, call the owners, see if they'll sell, send mailers to those owners, and then pull list of LLC owners in those particular areas you're interested in, and start mailing them. And then also out of state owners, and a lot of times I will do corporate vacant owners, or out of state corporate vacant owners, but it always doesn't always have to be vacant. We'll run another list of LLC owners, or LLC owners who live out of state but who have owned a property 5 years. Okay, because usually at that 5-year mark, a lot of investors are looking to turn that over and invest it into something else. And so if you start plugging these different lists into what you're doing every day, it's going to generate some leads. And you talk about cost. I probably spend, I don't know, $1,200 a month in mailers now. But for example, I sent at the time I was spending about $600 in mailers, and I got a duplex. We just bought it last week for $87,000, and it's going to take about $12K worth of work. So just say we're all in at $100,000, okay, give or take. It is worth around 160. So take 160, right? Let's just take fees out of 160. So 92% of 160. That leaves us at 147 minus 100,000. That gives me $47,000 worth of equity that I have in that duplex. Or if I sold it, I'm going to make about $47,000. And then after taxes, we'll say we'd keep 30,000 roughly. Okay. I've just made 30,000. That was off of one mailer. So now if I'm spending $1,000 a month in mailers, that's 12,000 a year. But off of one mailer, I made $30,000 in profit. Now I have 2 years of marketing, of mailer marketing covered off of one mailer and a duplex, and you're going to get a lot more deals on that. And so, I understand it's scary deploying capital to market for properties, and so a lot of times I will encourage people, drive for dollars, find the vacant properties yourselves, go to local meetups, get on wholesalers list, have agents bring deals to you. Right, that doesn't cost you any marketing. But if you're wanting to turn up the heat a little bit, mailers right now for us guys, there's a lot of different ways you can market. That and calling people has been huge. And so I want to encourage y'all, don't miss out on this right now. There's deals, is why I'm so excited about talking about this. There's a lot of deals right now because the market's been sitting very stagnant. There's almost some stagflation in real estate, and it's just been in some markets. And then in these other markets, prices are softening down because there hasn't been any movement, like very little movement. So if a house is sitting for 60 days, they got no choice but to drop the price and drop the price and drop the price. And then investors know, if you're dealing with investors off market, they understand how the market is, right? And so you look and say, okay, they bought it for this. I need it for this. This is a good spread for them. It's a good buy for me. And you just go buy as many deals as you possibly can in 2025. And, I've been preaching this every episode this year, but I'm begging guys and gals, please go buy as much as you can in 2025 and 2026. Please go buy as much as you can in 2025 and 2026. Write it down, put it in your calendar for 2027 to follow up on what Jaren Sustar said on March 17th at 11:16 a.m. When we get to 2027, 2028, 2029, it's going to be a very, very, very strong bull real estate market. And so the more that you can buy and own right now, the better off you're going to be then. Okay. Prices is going to take a year and a half, 2 years for prices to start picking up again. They got to get interest rates down. Prices are still going to have to come down. And then we're going to start seeing an uptick at the end of 2026 and into 2027 with movement in the market, which is going to drive prices up. And so if you want to capitalize on that, then buy. You should be buying at all times. I bought in 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So you shouldn't stop buying. But sometimes there's even better times to buy. Like I would say that 2018, 2019, and 2020 were better than 21 and 22 to buy. Right. But that doesn't mean I didn't buy in 21 and 22. I still bought. It just, there weren't as many deals. Well, we're in a time right now where there's actually this is the best real estate market to buy we've been in the last probably 5 years, 4.5 years. Right now, we're living in it. You're living in it right now. You want to be able to look back and say, man, yeah, he bought in 2025, 2026. He got good deals, because that's what the conversation is going to be in 5 years from now. And so again, it's not like you're not buying in 2010 and 2011. Those days are over, right? That was one of the best times to buy real estate in our lifetime. But right now is a fantastic time. And so I want to encourage you guys, go out and do as many deals as you possibly can over the next 2 years, and you will thank yourself after that. So, question from the listener: should I invest in real estate if I have bad debt? Well, I think it depends. I am a big proponent of getting bad debt paid off. But I would say, if you are a doctor or a lawyer, or you're in a high paying sales career or whatever, if you have a lot of capital coming in, what is your income coming in versus your debt obligation per month? And so if you're making 15,000 a month and your bad debt's costing you 3,000 a month, you know, number one, I would encourage you to get that debt paid off as quick as possible. But there would probably be a pretty strong argument that you could pay towards that debt some extra to get it paid off quick, while also investing into an appreciating asset that cash flows. So there's an argument there. I love the lane of paying off the bad debt first, because I don't owe anybody anything other than on real estate, and it's a very fantastic feeling. It's amazing, actually. Like, I don't have any debt obligations, and other than my personal home, outside of that, all my rentals they're paying for themselves. And then my rentals do so well now, I've been doing this and buying a lot, that they cover what my home costs. And so I don't have any debt obligations, and that's a great place to be. And so I want to encourage everybody to get to that point. But there's an argument: if you had a high income and your debt obligations low, fine, mix it up, pay some debt off, and invest at the same time. Now, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or it's tight for you every month, and you're paying off bad debt, just focus on making more money. The only two things you should be thinking of is, how do I make more money, and how do I pay off that debt as fast as I can? That's your focus. Okay. increase that income, go work a side job, go work 2 side jobs to make more money so you can get that debt so that you can get some breathing room. Because if you don't have breathing room, then you can't invest. Okay. We got to have our uh, expenses here and our income here. We got to have this large gap so that we can take capital and then go invest it to make more money. And then you can get in the conversation of, well, can't you use other people's money to buy real estate? Why would I need my own? Yes, but if you're broke, you don't need to be using other people's money because you've not even shown that you can handle your own money yet. All right. So let's get our finances taken care of, and then let's go buy cash flowing, appreciating assets. Friends, hey, thank y'all for hanging out with me today. I hope this was super helpful. If anything, I hope this inspires you to go buy, set down the fear, go buy in 2025. You're going to be so glad you did. Use the strategies that I just taught you, deploy them, and then let me know how they work out for you. I'd love to hear all the success stories and all the wins that you guys get. That's what keeps me going every day. Anyways,